Anelare opened their doors in 2014 at the foot of the Horse Heaven Hills over Kiona, looking across Badger Canyon to Red Mountain. We sat down with Tri-City native and owner Corinne Alexander to talk about what they hope to bring to the region's wine community. Let's start with the meaning behind Anelare, and what does it mean?
So it means to desire or yearn for. So we know sometimes after a long day, we desire a nice glass of wine. We loved the meaning. We come up with the label and thought it was something classic that would last through time.
What do you most like about this area and what it brings to your wines in general?
I think the terroir and the growing region is very unique. The opportunity to have water access that we do, the sunshine, and again, the people that are part of the industry make it very unique and special.
And speaking of unique, you have such a unique tasting room for people to come out and see.
Well, thank you. It was a wonderful find. We've been here, we've lived on the property for 3 years and had a wonderful barn that we remodeled. And of course, I looked at Red Mountain for, over a year, and it's obviously hard to find land over there. We thought it might be, a little different being on the other side of the highway, but once we drove up here, it took our breath away. So just seeing the views of the Horse Heaven Hills and then being able to look at Red Mountain and Benton City and then seeing Goose Ridge in the background as well, to be able to educate people when they come in here and see, really what's going on in Washington wine. It's pretty neat.
What are some of the wines that you're most known for here in making?
I would say we're pretty well known for our Syrahs that we produce. We've done well with those. Our Carmenere is very unique and popular right now.
Yeah.
And so those two I think stand out. And then our Nona Viola red blend has always been a hallmark, a good palatable blend that's easy to drink and just good quality. So. And
talk more about the Carmenere, because I know a lot of people don't know about it. And I know it's a grape that's grown in Chile. Is it South America?
Yes, it actually originated in France.
France, okay.
Yeah, so it's in the Bordeaux family.
See, I'm learning something new every day too.
Yeah, it's in the Bordeaux family. It is so essentially like a Cabernet Sauvignon or Merlot. And so unfortunately disease got to the vines in France many moons ago. Those vines became extinct and they weren't able to replant. But France did send some cuttings and clones over to Chile of what they thought was Merlot.
Okay.
And so it actually ended up being Carmenere. So there was that resurgence of Carmenere. And then we've got a little bit up here in Washington State in California. So you don't see it very often, but it is a noble Bordeaux grape like Cabernet Sauvignon. Very unique properties and difference in terms of characteristics, but just a fun, different wine to come try.
Where do you guys see yourself in the future with Anelare?
So future, I would just say that we want to continue to expand in terms of our property, take on fun projects as we can to enhance the experience here at Anelare. I would say that we do want to focus still on, I would say we don't want to get too big in terms of production. We like having that personal touch with our customers and our wine club. Predominantly, we sell all of our wines to our wine club. They get it first, and then when people come into our tasting room, we have our bottles here to sell after that. So just getting it here, and then we distribute on a very small scale outside of this. So we don't have a distributor. So we want to stay focused on that smaller, unique boutique vine.
If you make the short trip across the highway from Red Mountain, General Manager Kim Gravensland tells us what you can expect if you visit Anelare. What would be a unique experience for someone coming up here? You would say, like a typical afternoon, what can they experience up here?
I think what our facility or our venue makes us really unique is that it's just kind of awe-inspiring. What I experience on a regular basis with our guests is they just walk in and they're like, wow, the view. So it's a really relaxing venue, and we aim to have it be a nice, relaxing venue where people can come and just sit and stay a while, not necessarily just taste and go. We do offer wine by the glass or by the bottle on premise, as well as some light bites and food. I think what else is fun is we love to have, fun music going. We want people to feel comfortable, bring their friends. But some days are just really interesting. It can be the weather. We have a wonderful hill behind us, the McBee Grade. And in the summer, there's a lot of parasailers. Paragliders, I'm not really sure of the correct definition, but one day, one just dropped right on the lawn, like Santa Claus. We get some different activity that takes place. But I think it's also just fun to watch the weather patterns through here. You can appreciate that.
I do.
Some days we're above the clouds, some days we're below the clouds, some days we're in the clouds.
Let's talk more about the food that you have to offer and the different plates, I guess, or is it the flatbreads that you offer here?
Yeah, so we do have a chef on staff. So we do catered events as well. This facility is available if people want to come out and rent the facility for a private or professional event. And so we do have a chef that will design menus for that particular purpose. But we also do house-made flatbreads. I mean, we actually make the flatbreads. And then we just kind of allow the chef or even customers to give us input on what sounds good, and we try to change it up. We try to make it very seasonally driven. We try to source all of our ingredients locally. So we really just try to make it wine and food friendly and keep it fun and interesting.
Let's talk more about the wines that you have to offer to people who are going to come out and taste. What are some of your most popular wines you have?
I would say we're really known for our reds. We do produce some lovely whites. In the summertime, obviously, whites are incredibly popular with our outdoor area as well. But our reds, namely like our Nona Viola, which is a red blend. It's kind of a unique red blend in the sense that it's dominated by Syrah with a splash of Cabernet Merlot. Popular. People love it. I say kind of cult following on that particular one. And then we produce some lovely Merlots. We also do a beautiful Cab. And then recently the Carmenere, which is a big hit. Really popular, very unique and just fun. I think people enjoy tasting varietals that maybe aren't real common out there.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of a fun little spiff for everyone.
We are now on the backside of Anelare, which makes this property so unique. The views and of course the property is beautiful. Tell me, what different mountains can you see from here?
Well, on a clear day, you can see all the way down to Little Badger, and what we're looking at here is the backside of Goose Ridge or Goose Hill, and then obviously the infamous Red Mountain. Over here is Rattlesnake just peeking up. And then behind us are the Horse Heaven Hills.
Oh, wonderful. What does this typically look like on a summer day?
On a summer day, it's amazing. It's just, you can see for miles. I think what's key to this too is that we're really protected and sheltered here from the hot, hot sun, because typically the sun's behind us, so you can just sit and relax. It's just ginormous. The view is ginormous, and I just think kind of serene and relaxing.
And you typically have a lot of bands back here playing too?
Yeah, we do. We've had some fun. We've got this little amphitheater that we're working on. It's a work in progress, but we've had some amazing bands, so it's just kind of a fun, it's tucked in. The sound, I hear, they say, is amazing, just the way the hills lie, so we get some good sound acoustics.
And this property will look a little bit different in a couple of years once you have the vines planted.
Yeah, we're really looking forward to that. Recently just got water rights, so we're in the process of putting in the markings and the pump house and all of that to get some estate fruit in here soon, so that'll add to the ambiance. So Anelare sits on 10 acres, and so this nice sloping hillside will take up about 6 acres will actually end up in vineyards. And it'll actually kind of wrap around the backside of the house and probably a row over on the driveway side, just to give it a little pop of circumstance too. We're still deciding on what varietal to plant.
I was about to ask you that next.
Yeah, we're aiming towards a red, of course, to have some nice estate grown red. It may be Cab, it may be something different. We're talking to a lot of different growers as to which varietal they think would do the best. But yeah, we look forward to having a small production of estate wine in the near future. And different growers that we've spoken to, we face north, not south, but the terroir out here in general is good. And so, they have basically guided us and said, hey, plant what you want. It should do very well.
When Jason Domanico bought an old homestead property north of Prosser, it came with some of the oldest grapevines in the Yakima Valley. Domanico Cellars now creates award-winning wines, but it wasn't always that way. Everyone has to start out somewhere with winemaking, and there are a lot of new winemakers out there right now who are probably where you were, 10 years ago, starting off in your house?
This will be my 12th harvest.
How did this all come about?
Years ago, I was volunteering at a winery just for fun, and they had some extra grapes and asked if I wanted 1,000 pounds of Cabernet, and I said no, and they convinced me into taking them and made it in my basement. Spilled 10 gallons of fresh Cabernet juice on my carpet, and like everyone else, just tried not to wreck it.
How did your first batch come out? What did you think of it?
I thought it was pretty good. It was good enough that I made a second batch the next year.
Mm-hmm. Who was this originally owned by?
So this was owned by the Carter family, and in 1955 they moved here. George moved his family here. He was the winemaker at Washington State University with Walter Clore. So in 1975 he started planting grapes.
Something that's very interesting on this piece of property, you have vines that are even older than that too.
We do. We have a few vines that were planted when this was a homestead property. So there are some table grapes that are somewhere around 100 years old, maybe older.
And someone coming out to this piece of property, what do you hope they kind of take away from this whole 10-acre property you have?
To get a sense of the history of the vines, that the wine industry here has been going on for a while, and to be able to kind of get in touch with what goes on in a vineyard. They can take walks. We have little maps that describe the grapes and what's planted where. When Andy Perdue was out here, he said, "Do you know what you bought?" And I said, "Yeah." He said, "Are you sure?" And I said, "Yeah." But he said, you don't talk about it. And I think a lot of the wine industry gets focused on what's new, and not that we have old vines here, and not that there are a lot of places like this where people are making wine out of the grapes that they grow. Mm-hmm. And I think that's an interesting story as far as, the grapes or the wines that I make, the grape commute is sometimes 60 feet from where it's picked into the winery. And there's that sense of place with that. While you're drinking it, you can look at those vines.
Let's take us through the property. The thing that really sticks out to me the most, and you said is probably the oldest thing on this piece of property, is this barn.
So this is the homestead house for the property. We don't know how old it is, mm-hmm. but it's an old single-room building that was from sometime in the 1800s. It's fun to bring kids out here and let them see it because they look inside and the old stove is still there, and it's pretty cool. And then they get quiet and they stare around for a while, and finally we'll ask, "Where's the bathroom?" And you get to explain that, oh, there were outhouses back then.
Probably right around the same time this was built. Those vines were planted.
Right, we do think that they were about that time.
I have never seen a vine this big.
When you live here, you kind of forget to look at things like this, but every so often I'll walk by and smile. It's kind of a cool old vine.
What other vines that you have on the property here?
There's some small plantings of Lemberger. That's what these are. Lemberger was one of the grapes that George Carter and Walter Clore thought that should be the signature grape of Washington. It grows really well in this climate. It handles heat and cold well. It handles drought and water well, and makes a really nice wine. You can make lots of different styles of wine out of it, from really heavy to really light, but it has kind of a horrible name. It has a name that's very similar to a very smelly cheese. And it, because of that, it was really hard for the winemakers in the 70s and 80s to sell it. So it's been pulled out for years. But we still have about an acre of it here.
What's the flavor profile like?
Depends on what style you make. You can make it in almost a Pinot Noir style. So it originated in Austria and Germany, and that's a lot of times the style that they use. I have a tendency to make it in a much heavier style. We will use French oak with it and make a much darker wine. So you kind of get both sides. Has a little bit of a peppery streak to it, almost like Syrah, but Syrah on a lighter side.
Okay.
Yeah.
And people can come. This is where they get to sit outside, enjoy the wine that they're tasting. It's actually from the vineyard that's sitting right next to them.
And then these are some more table grapes. These are Thompson seedless, which would have been planted in the 50s. The idea is that they'll kind of cascade over you as you're sitting here. We talked about the age of some of these vines, right? There's one in the middle of a Lemberger row. There are 14 Pinot Noir vines that were planted in 1976. And Washington's not a great place to grow Pinot Noir. Our friends in Oregon are wonderful at that. It's too hot here, and the wine's really not that great. But at the same time, those vines are older than a lot of us, and I guess I don't have the heart to pull those out. So this is the Sunnyside Irrigation District Canal. It's one of the grandfathered rights canals, or one of the oldest canals. It was put in starting in 1890, and I think through here about 1891. What makes it important to us is in a drought year, grandfathered rights get their water first. 2 years ago when we had water restrictions, we didn't notice here, but they had other vineyards that were cut off.
I just feel like, I'm walking through on a piece of property that has just so much history with it. I mean, you can see its age, and it's kind of cool. And especially with
it's really cool. Yeah, and there are days I get out and it's hot and you're working and you look down and there's a vine that's a foot in diameter or something like that, and it makes you smile. Or as you prune, you'll see those things.
Kyle and Amy Johnson started Purple Star Wines in Benton City in 2008 with the philosophy that wine should be accessible, approachable, and affordable. And when it came to naming the winery, it was an idea from one of their kids that stuck. Where did the name come from?
Long or short? Well, we make 3 brands, Native Son, Murray Gaston, and Purple Star. We started with Native Son, which is focusing on only Red Mountain and only Cabernet, and of course Kiona's fruit we buy from the Williams family, which is phenomenal. When they believe it's a really good vintage, and then Kyle does as well, that's when we release a Native Son. So we only do it every couple of years, and it's super small. It's native inoculated, so that means whatever is on the grapes in the vineyard is what goes through fermentation. Only hand lots, and it's barrel aged in brand new oak, and then it's bottle aged for a year. It's this really exciting, special, small boutique wine at $120. Nobody buys that by the case.
Right,
it's a very special occasion wine. So I instantly knew we were going to starve to death if that was our motto. So I was like, we need a wine that is very shareable, really solid, really great, wins awards, but also at $20 and under, you can share it with family and friends and feel good about it. So what we did is, the kids were really young, at the dinner table, we'd be there and we'd be drawing ideas and doing whatever. And Karma came up with what is basically our Cabernet label. It's a purple star with rays coming out of it. And she drew that. She did have a princess crown on it. I took that out as a mom edit. Now every varietal we have has some sort of purple and some sort of star on it.
When did you guys open, or when did you guys start up?
2008 was our first. And we were a little bit unusual because we were able to release a vintage our very first year, which is unheard of, but that's because we ended up buying wine from Olson Estates as they were closing, and we felt really good about it because it was wine that Kyle had made because he was working for them. So we were able to roll out with our own product, which is unheard of for wineries for red wine.
And you guys do a lot for the community too.
We try to. Yeah, we try to. Wine, for me, it's something I need, but we know that not everybody actually needs it in their life, and so it's really comforting to know that we're giving back to the community. and really investing in where we live, kind of, you know, sweeping our own back porch type of deal. And then we also give to Seattle Children's 15% of Purple Star proceeds, because Kyle was treated there successfully, I might add, as a child. His grandmother was, and then I have 2 nephews who graduated there, and it's just amazing. Not only what they do for the kids, but how they keep those families together and the resources they give the parents to get through it.
Oh, that's awesome. And then the tasting room for people to come out. When is it open? What can they
We
expect?
are open Wednesday through Sunday, 11 to 5 p.m. And truthfully, we're here 7 days a week. So if you have a different day or something, you can just give us a call. We'll make it work.
Now you have the small vineyard out here. You said the Syrah grapes that you produce the rosé with.
Right.
But you were talking more about where you source the grapes from and how Kyle really loves to be artistic with those grapes. Tell me more about that.
So fortunate for us, Kyle has a long history in the wine industry. He started with St. Michel and then worked for Olson Brothers in Prosser previous to us starting a winery. So he got a lot of experience with other grape growers and viticulturists and all that. So when we started this, he was able to pick and choose kind of his favorite sites and the viticulturists he really respects and the growers he really respects. So we're able to really focus on the AVAs and then the vineyards, and then of course who crops those for us and everything else.
How exciting is it for you to be part of this big growth here on Red Mountain?
Oh, amazing. Amazing even more that we have such fabulous neighbors. There's just, you know, people always come to us and they're like, who can you recommend next or next stop? And I'm like, you're not going to go wrong with Red Mountain. It's amazing fruit, but what it is it's not really competition, because the fruit is so good, every winemaker can put their thumbprint on it, and so you're going to get all these different stylistic approaches, and it's fabulous. We were really excited about the AVA.
And we're getting a special look at the bottling process, because a lot of people don't get a chance to see this, and they think, well, they think you have a bottling line inside.
Which would be great.
Which would be great, but you don't.
Right.
You guys bring a special truck in to do everything.
We do. The overall space is number one, and then maintenance of the truck and the bottling line and everything else is just overwhelming, especially for a small company like us. So we like to contract with Signature Mobile Bottling. They come in and they do the whole process, and we get wine at the end. Super easy.
And it usually is a day process?
Depending on how much wine you want to do, it is. For us, we started about 7:30 this morning. We should be done around 5 o'clock, barring no breakdowns and no problems.
So let's take them through the process of what's involved in this daily process.
Right, so we start usually a couple days ahead of time. We figure out what we're going to bottle, and then that goes into one big tank. If you're making a blend, that's when you do the blending. If you're just doing solo, you get it all out of the barrels and into one tank, so it can just continuously flow. Then if you choose to filter, or whatever you choose to do from that, it's going to go through a filter, and then it, as you can see, the big white hose right there goes into the truck, and the empty glass is brought in, it's put on there, it's sparged, goes through a big wheel that sparges it, then it comes through and it's filled with the wine that you're choosing, and then it gets corked or capsuled or screw cap, whichever your method you're choosing to do, and then it goes through and gets labeled and then comes back out the other end in a case box.
I feel like it's a big party on the truck right now.
It kind of is. It kind of is. It's pretty monotonous. It's quick and it's fast, but it's the same motion over and over, so you got to keep the spirits high.
And you need folks on there to help out with things, right?
Oh, absolutely. One person cannot do it. It's definitely, you need one person to unload the glass, you need 2 people to capsule or put the screw caps on, and then you need somebody watching over the labeler and making sure the cork bin is full, and then it takes 2 people to put them in the case box, and it usually takes 1 or 2 people to bring it off the line and stack it on the pallet.
So you're talking about some of the bumps and stuff that you'd have with this process. I mean, it's not just an easy
No.
in and out.
We like to make it look like that. It's really awesome. I think everybody does that with their job. Look, it's fun, it's great. And there's things we've already had today. The labels are not coming off the backing quite right. The glue is not cooperating with us, so we've had to stop a couple times and adjust it. And with that, not owning our own line, with having Signature Mobile Bottlers with us, he instantly saw the problem. We didn't waste any labels or bottles and have to scrape them off and do all that. He caught it, stopped it, and we fixed it and moved on. So what could have been a 3-hour disaster was like 15 minutes.
Right.
So they're really experts at that, and it's worth every penny.
And so what you're bottling right now, when can customers come and try the wine?
Well, so what we're bottling right now, we usually like to let it rest for at least 6 weeks, because it does go through a little, you'll see how fast-paced it is when you see the process, and the wine gets a little shaken up, which doesn't hurt it, but it needs time to lay down and relax a little bit. So we would never open it before like 6 weeks. It's also exciting, you know, a new wine is about to happen. You know, you've been planning, you've been doing tasting trials and blending and all that, and then to actually put it in bottle and look at it, it's a sense of accomplishment.